Welcome to another episode of the Star Wars Fan-Addict. In today's video, I want to share with you some of my early restoration and customizing work. When I first started, I had no plans of building a YouTube channel for it. I did take a few pics of my work to share with a few friends. Today I'm going to share these with you. I guess you could say our journey should start at the beginning, or should I say the end. This was the 18-year-old me, the hapless dope who traded away a huge Star Wars collection for car parts. Yep, that's the car behind me. While I thought I had made the deal of the century, I lost practically all of my collection. Gone was my AT-AT, radio-controlled sandcrawler, and land speeder. Multiple cases, full of figures, all gone. Sad part is, it was all for nothing. I no longer have the car either. Ah, dumb decisions of our youth. What you now see before you is just about all that remained of my once mighty collection. This case of figures and a few odds and ends were lost in a forgotten corner of the attic, which was all that saved it from the great purge for parts. Finding it was what reignited old memories and kicked off my desire to rebuild what had been lost and restore what was left.
Getting a lot of carbon scoring here. Looks like you boys have seen a lot of action.
You're awfully tall to be a stormtrooper. Sorry, sir. It won't happen again, sir.
Hey, we don't serve their kind here.
What?
Your droids, they'll have to wait outside. We don't want them here.
Let's wait out by the speeder. We don't want any trouble.
I heartily agree with you, sir.
They are just a bunch of pansies.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Now that I decided to restore what I had left, I started with my vintage Luke Skywalker. A little scrubbing with some dish soap and a toothbrush and some retro brighting truly made a difference. With most of the yellowing now gone, he looked much better. I decided to leave the few little scuffs and scrapes that tells the story of his history, as he's now well over 40 years old. Next up was this Chewbacca. He had had an unfortunate meeting with a puppy that turned him into a chew toy. A little contour, putty, and a little touch of paint, and he was looking much, much better. What we now see before us is all that remained of my Darth Vader TIE Fighter. Missing were both wings, parts of the canopy, and the battery cover. So we're off to eBay, to look for replacement parts. As with any restoration, the first step was disassembly and cleaning. You can see here underneath the pilot seat, there appears to have been that fuzzy pollen stuff that comes off of oak trees. Who knows how long that had been in there. Electronically, this TIE Fighter was still pretty well intact, although it suffered, as most of them do, from the motor being seized from having not been used in so long. The motor was completely filthy. It did have a little bit of surface rust on it too, so I disassembled it completely and soaked all the metal parts in white vinegar to remove all the corrosion. Once back together, I did a good coating of 3-in-1 oil to help lubricate the motor and get things moving again. So with the TIE Fighter back fully functional, all that was really left to do was to assemble the parts that we had picked up on eBay. And we're calling that one done. Encouraged by these results, I went back to Fleabay to see what else I could find. Here I found this Cloud Car Pilot. It was in such bad condition, I got him very cheap. But look at this mess. What were they thinking? What were they trying to do?
The authorities said, best leave it
unsolved, really.
So again, my first step was a good scrubbing to get him as clean as I could, and then retrobrite him. For figures, I use a small jar, plastic wrap over the top, and let our Florida sun do the rest. I maximize this by placing the jar into an aluminum foil pan and place it in direct sunlight. Whatever it was that the previous owner had done was very permanent, to the point that even retrobrite couldn't undo it. After nearly a week of treatments, it was clear that all the original colors were being bleached out in the process to reverse the original owner's handiwork. As the retrobrite process continued, it was obvious that the colors were not going to return to normal, and so more drastic measures would have to be used. As you can see, the arms and legs had settled into this bizarre orange color, while the helmet was turning yellow. The torso looked pretty reasonable, but all in all, I decided to do the boil and pop method to take him apart. I then gave him a couple of light coats of spray enamel and brushed on the details with hobby paints. Then I sealed him up with a clear coat to finish. I found the results to be very pleasing and was happy with how he looks. Clearly, it's a big improvement over how he started. With that project done, I returned again to Fleabay for more restoration candidates. This time, I was looking for droids.
With all we've been through, sometimes I'm amazed we're in as good condition as we are.
I got this 3PO also on the cheap due to his worn and battered condition. Not only was the metal coating flaking off and his joints loose, but he was also missing a hand. I took an intact 3PO and stuck his hand into some of my kids' Play-Doh to make a quick mold. I then used hot glue to fill the mold and replicated the missing hand. I drilled a small hole into the arm and placed a small piece of plastic rod into the arm to give the new hand reinforcement. That and a dab of superglue firmly held the new hand in place. Prior to this, the arm and the rest of the disassembled body was sprayed down with oven cleaner to remove the remaining metal coating. Lacking the equipment and know-how to return him to the original gold, I opted to turn him into a custom R3PO, the red protocol droid seen in the background on Hoth in The Empire Strikes Back. I reassembled the 3PO with plumber's tape at the joints to tighten them back up and superglue to hold it all together. I filled any cracks left from the disassembly process with contour putty and gave all the parts a few light coats of red spray enamel. I finished the details by brush and gave him a clear coat finish. Next up was this FX7, again very cheap as he was missing all his limbs. I simply replaced the main arm with Lego parts and the body appendages with zip ties. While he probably wouldn't stand up to a child's play, he certainly is good enough to be displayed. Here I found a couple of nasty looking sand people. While they looked bad, they had decent joints. All they really needed was a good cleaning and a touch of paint. I've held off on recreating their capes as I've yet to find the right color of vinyl. Very recently, though, I added gaffy sticks that I 3D printed with a printer I acquired back at Christmas. You might have noticed that I didn't replace the spikes on this one's head. That was done intentionally to give a little bit of individuality to him. As you can see, this Yoda suffered from ear loss. I employed a similar procedure as used on the 3PO and molded the ears of a good Yoda and filled the mold with hot glue. The ears are a bit larger than they should be, but overall he is much better than before. The ears were attached with a little bit of super glue. I finished them off with my hobby paints as usual and a clear coat. In the photographs they do appear to be a very different shade of green than the rest of him. However, this only shows up in the photograph and cannot be seen just in plain light. Afterwards, I handmade his cape from the templates available over at Toy Polloi. I put a link in the description.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
These 3 X-Wing pilots were in a lot on eBay and were too cheap to pass up. I used the boil and pop method to take them apart and painted them with spray paint, Tester's spray enamel, to get the orange back to the right color, and again finished them off with brush paints for details. I used an internet search to get the right colors for Luke's chest buttons on the flight suit. I did one with plain hands and one with gloves. The third one I'll save for another time. The helmet details were printed out, cut out, and glued into place. I then clear-coated everything. The limbs were tightened with plumber's tape. Finally, last but not least, I found this terrible-looking stormtrooper in Hoth battle gear. He was tight-limbed, but as you can see, looks like he spent some time either on a windowsill or on somebody's dashboard. I've done a few of these, and they all get these yellow sun-damaged spots. While they look beyond hope, they do come up very well in the retro bright, and then simply touch them up with a little bit of black from the hobby paints. I went the extra step again of cutting out replacement capes from vinyl. In this case, I cut them from a 99-cent beach ball. The rifle I still had in my possession from many years ago. I hope you've enjoyed these restorations as much as I did doing them. If you like this content, give us a like, and please subscribe for more. Don't forget to leave a comment, and may the Force be with you.